get my 6. So I just received, here just a little while ago, a very endearing message from someone special, someone I've known for 40 years. And they, in a somewhat lengthy message, let me know how much they appreciate me because they feel I had a positive impact on their life. This person is very successful, and I'm not going to say who this person is or what our relationship is, but they're very successful. I mean, not that, you know, money is the standard of success, but they're making money hand over fist in their profession, with their investments, with their side hustles. It's just stupid crazy how successful this person is. But this individual just let me know what part they feel I played in that success, because when they were younger, I guess I was constantly giving them words of encouragement. I was constantly telling this person how smart they were, how together they were, and I guess according to the message, they said that I was always saying that they were going to be very, very successful. And so this person internalized these words. I don't want to say that I'm not deserving of this wonderful message I got, because if I wasn't, it wouldn't have come to me, because this person is not trying to flatter me in any way, shape, or form. They have no need or no reason to. But it was making me think about a couple of things. How influential we can be with our words, for good or for bad. And it was reminding me of somebody that was very influential in my life, who is no longer with us. He's passed on. He's dead. He died just a few years ago. I'm going to talk about something today that I've talked about before. You know, it's still summer as of this recording, but it's only 82 degrees today. There's no humidity. We've had drought type conditions, and so a lot of our hardwood trees are sucking the moisture out of their leaves because there's no rain, and this is causing the leaves to turn yellow, of course, and fall off. So it's just a very fall type feeling around here, and I love it because it brings up nostalgia. Fall is my favorite time of year. My absolute most favorite holiday out of the year is in fall. Boom! As you know, Halloween. I feel like I'm being watched. I keep getting my 6 back there. So, many of you, a lot of you, thousands of you have read this already. And if you haven't, we have autographed copies available on our Etsy store. Links in the description box below. But there's one story in here in particular that I want to talk about today. It's called PJ's Cabin. Because after receiving the message I got from this person from my past, who still is very much among the living, fortunately, the world's a better place with this person in it, I started thinking about, wow, is there anybody that kind of had an influence like that for the good, for the, positive on my life? Because if so, I'd like to reach out to that person and kind of do what this other person just did for me, because it felt good to receive a message like that out of the blue. Well, that person was a guy named PJ, and there's a short story in here. I forget what day it's on. This is a neat book. There's 31 tales for the Halloween season. It doesn't have chapter 1, chapter 2, or whatever. It has, like, the dates. So, like here, October 12, Meeting of the Minds. Oh, I remember that story. That one's true. Like, well, a lot of them are. So anyway, PJ was this old man that lived on top of the mountain, the base of which I grew up on back in Appalachia. He was a Navy veteran, combat veteran. He did a tour of duty in Vietnam during the war. He was a retired seaman. Came back, kind of had some difficulties fitting in. So he took to seclusion, took to the hills, took to the mountains. Got away from people, and I remember when he told us this, and I've mention this in the book. You know, when I was a teenager, when we were kids, me and a couple of my best friends, when we met him, because we used to hunt and hike and camp and everything on his mountain, I thought, well, that sounds weird. But then, of course, when I had my own experiences with the Army and Iraq and all these things and came back, I could kind of relate. Well, I could relate to him a lot more. And I actually went to talk to him about some stuff. And I was seeing and hearing his words through a second set of eyes and ears after having experienced, to a degree, some of what he did. But the thing about PJ is that he was the greatest oral storyteller I've ever known in my life. And as a matter of fact, and by the way, let's just get this out of the way, because dozens of you daily have been messaging or commenting that you've gone to Etsy to get The Lunatic, my latest novel, and it's not there. Well, I got a box in today. They're on back order. They're selling out so quickly. I get them, they'll sell out overnight. There was only 18, and Mary in Ohio, shout out to Mary in Ohio, I was waiting for her because she's messaged me and said she wanted one. So I let her know these were in, and she went ahead and got hers. So now I'm making this announcement for the rest of you, but it might be a couple of weeks, I don't know, before we get the rest in. But I'm talking about PJ and this guy being a great oral storyteller. He was so great that a novel I wrote 10 or 11 years ago, 10 years I think, From the Graves of Babes. This is a new cover because this is the 10-year anniversary edition. I dedicated the entire book to him, for one. I'm going to show you this. Here we go. In memory of Philip J. Abels, the greatest storyteller I ever knew. That was a new dedication I made just this June. When I was in the Philippines, actually, one of his grandchildren got in touch with me and let me know he had passed on. But before that, I was fortunate to be able to go back and spend some time with him as an adult, as a nearly 40-year-old man. And I had this idea for this story, for this book. It's based on a real place. It's based on his mountain. His cabin's in it. I wanted him to be one of the main characters in the story, and I asked his permission. And when I did that, because I told him I have this idea for a book, you know, because we used to go camping in his cabin when we were teenagers, and he would come up, because he built a house a little bit lower down the mountain, which was easier to get in and out of in the winters. And we would go camp in his old cabin, his original cabin that he built when he came back from Vietnam and got out of the Navy. And he'd come up and he'd tell us the creepiest stories. And he just had a way of telling stories that, you know, a lot of you folks say I'm a good storyteller. I'm not 10% of what he was. I mean, he could tell you a story. I remember one time, and I got this buddy, shout out to my buddy Jonathan. He was there with us one weekend, and he was upstairs in the cabin. It had a loft where you slept. And I guess he had found this big deer antler. PJ was an avid hunter, and he always killed the biggest deer on the mountain every year. I mean, he lived up there. He knew that place. If a rock was overturned a mile from his house on that mountain, he could tell that the rock had been overturned. So he knew where the big bucks were. And but my friend Jonathan had found this antler up there. And so PJ's telling us this story one night. We're sitting around in front of the wood stove. It was a very cold October night. Just saying. You know, and up in Appalachian, up in the mountains, it still might be in the 70s during the day and nice. But at night, once that sun goes down, it can drop down into the 30s. So we had a fire going in the wood stove, and just as PJ got to the creepiest part of his story, my buddy Jonathan took that antler he had and he dragged it across the floor upstairs so it was right above our head. And man, all of us screamed, even PJ. It was pretty creepy. And we thought he was up there listening to the story and that he had timed it, but we asked him about it. He said no, he found an antler and he just felt like dragging it across the floor for some reason. But when I asked PJ about, well, I asked for his permission to actually use his real name, put him in this story, he looked at me and he was silent, and his eyes kind of teared up. I guess he felt similar to how I felt when I just received that message from that person. who let me know how influential I was in their life. I am here to tell you, for those of you who... I feel like someone or something is in this forest with me right now. If you're seeing anything, make sure to timestamp it so others can look for it as well. Anyway, for those of you who think I'm a good storyteller and who enjoy the stories and who enjoy the books, I would not be doing what I do today if I had never met Philip J. Abels. If I had never gone to spend the night in his cabin on multiple occasions and heard his stories and become friends with this man and, you know, gone back and seen him years later, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I mean, and I wouldn't do it the way I do it. He had a very Mark Twain type style of telling a story, the way he would weave from here to there to here. Just when you think he's getting to it, he'd go over here, but he always brought it back together at the end, like Mark Twain. And a lot like myself. I've read every book Mark Twain has written except one called something Abroad, where he wrote about stories when he went overseas. But that, I have it. It's on the pile. The pile keeps getting taller and taller, despite the fact that I read one and sometimes 2 books a week on top of all the writing I do. But, you know, if you get one of these on Etsy's here or on our Etsy store, here's something really neat about it. It was like kind of a misprint. I need to fix this. The story, you know, usually you turn over a book and on the back, it tells you what the book is about. It's like the book description was left off. This is why so many people have a hard time with self-published books or whatever. These things happen. Well, listen, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? So I have these permanent markers. So I thought, man, this isn't a bad thing. This is a great thing. When people buy copies of From the Graves of Babes from our Etsy store, link in the description box below, I'm going to autograph it to them with one of those Sharpies on the back. It'll be like to, for example, Marion, Ohio, if this is her, to Mary, whatever. Thank you for your support. Best wishes. Happy Halloween, whatever it is. And then sign my name and date it. So when you're at home and you got your book there on your bookshelf and somebody sees it, one of your friends, you say, hey, take that green book out, that really awesome green book with that really cool name, Kevin Lake, there on the spine, and look at the back. And then take it out and it'll be bam, like right there on the back, like Catalina wine mixer, bam. And they'll be like, wow, that's neat. And then, but then they'll say, because they'll notice this is where the book description's supposed to be, and they'll be like, what's this book about? Well, listen, you don't say it was a misprint. He had to go fix it for the next batch. Here's what you do. They look at it and they say, wow, that's neat. But what's it about? You say, well, it's about the best book you've ever read in your life. Unless you've read any of his other books, and it's tied as the best book you've ever read in your life with those other books of his you've read. That's how it is, man. You just play it up like that. You know, so anyway. This is a really neat story. But the neatest part was PJ was in it. I finished that story, got it professionally edited by an actual editor, and had it published a few years before he passed on. He was able to read it, and I gave him a copy, of course, autographed copy, and he read it in one night. He said he couldn't remember the last time he read one book in one night, not just because he was in it, but because it was a good story, well told, he said. Did you guys hear that? There's something in here with me. Anyway, so I'm happy that, getting back to what I started with, you know, to get a message like that from somebody, from the person that sent me that message telling me how influential I was in their life. I'm very glad that I was able to tell PJ that same thing before he passed. Because guys and girls, this is one of those things that, you know, when people are gone, I don't go to funerals. I don't do funerals. I don't do weddings. I just don't go to that stuff. These things that a lot of people make a big ado about. I want to celebrate people's lives who matter while they're living. I want to let them know they're important. I want to put them in a book if they've been that influential to me. I don't want to go to a church once they've passed on and they're laying in a coffin and then tell other people how much they inspired me. They're the ones who inspired us, so they're the ones who deserve to hear it while they're living. My little niece, Katie, was talking about, I told her I don't go to funerals and weddings, and she says, what about when me and her boyfriend get married or whatever? I'm like, whatever, send me an invitation. I'll send you some money in a card, but I'm not going. You guys can come visit. I mean, you can honeymoon up here at my campground. I don't care, but I just don't do that kind of stuff. It just seems kind of fake to me, those ceremonial life event things. It's like, live it, you know, live it, do it, eat, sleep, and breathe it, but don't, you know, artificially pomp and circumstance it. I mean, that's just always been my thing. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I guess maybe the message here today, you know, aside from going to that Etsy store and buying all these books, would be just think for a minute who, and maybe it's small, maybe they didn't influence you in a big way, but maybe somebody has done something to help you get a little further down the road in an easier fashion. Send them an email, send them a text, call them, go see them, something like that, because none of us are promised tomorrow. So make the most of life and those who matter, your relationship with those who matter while you and they are still here. So we'll see you for more next time from here at Homesteading Off the Grid and whatever the hell this channel is about, aside from just buying all my books and weird stuff walking around the woods that may or may not be potentially Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Civil War ghosts, other things. Maybe even deer. Something out there thought that was funny, huh?